Okay. Welcome, everybody, to our second session of the week for the North Florida Beaches Indicators project. I want to take a moment to make sure that I thank our supporters for this work, the Beaches Community Fund and the Community Foundation for Northeast Florida, as well as our partners in data and community building, the Beaches Action Collaborative, which has been instrumental in the initial phase of build for this project and for continuing to support our data work at their monthly meetings that take place at different locations. We just had one of the Beaches Action Collaborative meetings last week, and they happen every month at the beach at rotating locations. So I want to introduce myself for those of you who aren't familiar with me. My name's Allison Owenby. I am with the Nonprofit Center of Northeast Florida, and I am the data Vice President of Data Research and Strategic Initiatives. My title just changed a few months ago, so I'm still getting used to the new title. And I'd love for everyone who's on the call to just introduce themselves and say either the organization that you're from or why you're here. So I'm going to ask each of you to come off mute and share a little bit. So I'll start with Addie, if you could introduce yourself.
My name is Els. I work for Baptist Beaches and I do community relations.
Thank you. And Leslie?
Hi, my name is Leslie Brotman, and I'm a member of the Beaches Community Fund.
Thank you. And Alexandra?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Alexandra with Baptist Community Health and Wellbeing. So I work with Addie. I look system-wide for Baptist, and my small piece is volunteerism.
Very important. Jose?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jose here. I work for Duval County Public Schools, and I'm in charge of the foundation development and also doing some community services and engagement.
Ooh, we're gonna maybe picking your brain today, Jose. So I hope you brought your talking voice to this conversation. And Latanya?
Good afternoon. My name is Latanya Gore Weidman, and I am representing Aspire Concierge Solutions as well as Mandarin Community Church. And I'm just here to just learn as much as I can.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, everybody. So I'm going to go through a few slides, and if you attended our session tomorrow, I'm going to apologize in advance, but let's just level set a little bit about some of the data work the Nonprofit Center does. But before that, I want to talk to you a little bit about our organization, the Nonprofit Center in general. So the Nonprofit Center is based out of downtown Jacksonville, and we are a organization that supports other nonprofits through capacity building. And so capacity building is kind of a term that could mean a lot of different things, but each bullet point that you see on this slide is something that the organization focuses on. Anything from helping our nonprofits understand what's going on in our community through e-newsletters to advocacy and lobbying efforts, right? Teaching organizations how to speak to elected officials and or people with power about their organization. Hosting peer convening groups. One of our signature and most popular events is something called CEO Confidential, where we bring together all the nonprofit CEOs each month to compare notes and commiserate and celebrate successes and share different tips and tricks for, owning that nonprofit CEO role, as well as our data and research projects. So that's kind of what we're here to talk about today, as well as I own some of our regional research projects like State of the Sector, which looks at nonprofit tax returns and analyzes information about the financial health of the nonprofit sector, as well as our compensation and benefits research, right? So that catalogs how the rates that nonprofits are paying their staff by job, family, and job type, and then publishes a report that talks about what the average salary is for different job families and job types within our community. So it's a really great guide for people and boards, especially in our community, to understand what the going rate is for a nonprofit CEO or a CFO, even down to jobs like a janitor, right? We have all types of information in that report. But anyways, we're here today to talk about Catalyst and some of the nonprofit center's data work. So our community, Northeast Florida, has a long history of leading data and being at the forefront of understanding our community through data. So for those who are unfamiliar, JCCI started Jacksonville Community Council Incorporated in 1974, and they were really at the forefront of building data-informed communities across the nation. So I have the opportunity to participate in some um, nationwide sessions with leaders in the data space, and all of them say, "Oh, you're from Jacksonville. You must know JCCI." And when I tell them that it closed in 2016, some of them are still surprised, right? Because they know all the great work that they did as a convener of consensus, but also helping Northeast Florida understand its journey with data. So when they closed their doors, there was a gap in the community that existed for a number of years. And when the Nonprofit Center in 2022 was approached by a private funder that wanted to help us start this work, we did some soul searching and then decided that, we could lead this type of project for the community as a trusted convener, and we took on the charge. And since then, we've evolved the project quite a few times, but the right side of your screen is kind of where we are now. So we've changed our indicators project name to Catalyst, and we have a couple of different projects that we work on throughout the community. One is a regional dashboard that tells the story of Northeast Florida as a whole and the counties that make it up. And the others are some specific projects we worked on around data for different geographies. So we've made some custom dashboards for different city council members, including Councilmember Amero, Peluso, Carico, and others, just to help them better understand what's going on within their city council district. We've partnered with Clay County to build a similar dashboard that you're going to see today for their geography, as well as the North Florida Beaches Project. So let me talk to you a little bit about what the North Florida Beaches Project is. So this is essentially a tool or a website that we've built to give the beach community data-driven insights into the issues affecting their region. Hoping that this will allow the community to better understand its strengths and opportunities. Hello, Leslie's friend that's there with you. And also hi to Laura. Laura joined us a little bit late. Laura, would you introduce yourself to the group before I keep going? Laura Acker joined. Oh, maybe she can't hear me or she's busy. We'll keep going. Okay, so North Florida Beaches is primarily made up of the zip codes that you see here and the geographic footprint and the map you see on the right-hand side of the screen. So we have zip code 32227, 3366550. So that's all of those zip codes, as well as parts of 32225, 24, and 82. So the map that you see here is the map that's going to be reflected in the data that we're going to see as we kind of move through the presentation today. So our dashboard is informed by the Beaches community and built in partnership with the Beaches Action Collaborative. We're hoping that it acts as a centralized data source for a lot of different primary audiences. For nonprofits, can be used by government, volunteers, donors, and the community at large. And when we built the dashboard, we've built it around a couple of different focus areas. We have a section that overviews the beach. So it tells you about the population, the age of the folks that live there, what the household size makeup is, and even green space. We have housing and homelessness that talks about how affordable housing is, rates of homelessness, economic vitality. We reviewed that topic yesterday. Food insecurity is something that a lot of folks are talking about, especially with across our community and country, SNAP benefits being reduced, the government shutdown that happened in November of last year. So I'm excited to share that data with you later on this week. today we're going to talk about education, so we'll deep dive into that in a moment, as well as later in the week we'll talk about physical health, mental health, and health care. So the icons and the words that you see associated with them are each different tabs on our Beaches dashboard. And so I want to take a pause there because I feel like I've talked a lot and see if you have any initial questions. And if not, we'll start kind of going through what the data tells us about our community. And Laura, I see you came
Hey,
off video.
Allison. Yeah, sorry. I was there and I was like, I was having issues with my computer, so I had to get on my phone and but hi, I'm Laura Acker. I'm the coordinator of the Beaches Resource Center and have been working with Allison with the Beaches Action Collaborative. I have so many BA whatever organizations. I forget. Yes, that's right. Beaches Action Collaborative. So I'm
Yes.
happy to see what information we have currently.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Laura. And Laura was a key partner in helping us determine the data that we have on the education portion of the dashboard and what you guys are going to be able to see today. So I want to just really quickly, before we get into it, share a little bit of information about um, how to navigate to our website. So the Beaches Action Collaborative, the group that we've partnered with, has their own website, jacksback.org. You can learn more information there, or you can click here to navigate to our dashboard. You can also access it by going to the nonprofitcenter.org site. We have a link here to our Catalyst dashboard. So this has all of the data research tools that we talked about a little bit earlier today, Clay County, our regional dashboard hubs, as well as our North Florida Beaches project, which is right here. Once you get to our dashboard, you'll kind of come to our landing page here. It has a beautiful picture of the beach. Love that photo. It just kind of welcomes you overall to the page. It tells you a little bit about the data that you're going to see, all the things that we've kind of talked about in the previous slides, as well as a recognition for our supporters, right? So again, we're recognizing our Beaches Community Fund and the Community Foundation for Northeast Florida. And then I want to start here with an overview of the beach. I want to talk a little bit about population and age as we move into the education space. So our geographic footprint that we have here has about 114,000 people. So all of the data that you're going to see, or the majority of the data, is from federal sources. So the ones that we're going to focus on today are from the census, some are from the Department of Education. Which we're actually looking to pivot this year to using the Florida Department of Education data versus the Federal Department of Education. As we all know, the Federal Department of Education doesn't have as reliable of data anymore when it comes to the state of Florida and has been reduced in size significantly this year. And so we're looking to get more local data interwoven into this education space. So over the next few months, you'll see that data refreshed as we look at it, but what we're going to view today is going to kind of be the baseline for what we're going to continue to evolve and create. So again, as we're moving forward, we see at the beach there are 49% males, 51% females. And we kind of can see here how the population has grown at the beach over time. So we're starting out in 1990 with about 80,000 folks up to the 114,000 that we see in the latest amount of data. I want to go down to the age section of our dashboard that talks about the median age of our community at the beach. So our median age here is trending a little bit older than Duval County overall. So you see here is 44.2 versus the 36.7, basically 37 of Duval County. And I want to take a look here to look at the percentage population of children, right? So if you think about the footprint of the beach, it's 19% are under the age of 18 and 21% are over age 65. And we compare that to Duval County overall, it's almost flipped, right? So we have a higher percentage of the population that are children and a lower percent of the population that are seniors. So when you think about the makeup of the beaches community, you're going to think about the fact that there are fewer children. And then you can see here even how that's changed over time. So we see the yellow line kind of indicating adults and the blue line here, children. So let's take a more granular look at um, people under the age of 18. So I just clicked this little yellow button here and I removed the age 18 and over filter. And now we're just looking at how the population has changed for people under 18. So we can see in 1990 we had about 19,000 up to 26,000 in 2000, and so kind of trending a little bit lower than some of our highs over time. And it's projected to continue to grow though at the beach where more families are moving out there. And then I added in this section last night after our conversation yesterday about some of the population age over 65 and where they live. So here we can kind of filter out again where people live that are over age 65 and then age 16 to 64 here. This is something to explore a little bit later. This is another view of the age breakdown of the beach. And so you can kind of see here how that percentage plays out. So for this conversation, we want to look at the younger ages, right? So we have about 4% of the population that's under age 5, 5% that's age 5 to 9, 6 that's 10 to 14, and another 6 that's 15 to 19. And as you can see, the percentage of the population for adults is much higher than it is for children. Even age 65 to 74 is much higher than any percentage that there is for children at the beach. We'll also take a look this time at households. We didn't look at this data point yesterday, but I do want to share it because we're thinking about education. So we're looking at the household size of folks at the beach today. So we are thinking about one household, about 28 to 29% of households at the beach have one person. 43% have two people, and then 12, 10, and about 1,900 people have larger household sizes. And to give additional context here, I just wanted to show you how many of those families. So when you're kind of going backwards, when you're looking at this graph here, if you hover over it, it's going to tell you the hard number, right? And it's also going to tell you the number, the percentage when you're looking at it. So if you wanted to export this here, you could export it as an Excel or CSV file, SVG file, or a PNG. So PNG is just a photo, right? So if you were creating something for your board or any group of people that you wanted to share this information with, you could download the CSV file and create your own graph in a PowerPoint or an Excel sheet, or you could just download this image. I'll go ahead and do that right now, and then insert it into anything that you happen to be working on. I'll show you guys that in a moment. But anyways, going back to here, so we see our family households and non-family households. So we do have fewer family households. I mean, fewer non-family households at the beach where people are living with others besides their family, and a lot more family households. Okay, so I'm going to move on now to education. But before I do that, is anybody having a reaction to the things that we've shared right now they want to share with the group? Anybody ex surprised by what they've seen? Questioning any of the data?
Allison, oh, sorry, am I echoing?
You're good. We can hear you perfect.
Oh, okay. Uh, I live at the beach and I'm always just a little surprised by the numbers. But then when I sit and think about it, I go, well, that's not surprising because what I know is that, most of the people I engage with and talk to who live out here are older, living in families that have already, the kids have grown up and gone. So there's only two. And it does distress me a bit that we don't have the young families coming in. It's really affecting our schools, our public schools. It's the reason we're getting ready to have one of them closed. So yeah, I'm intrigued always by the numbers, by the household numbers.
Is that on the plan, Laura? Is that one of the schools at the beach may close due to low enrollment?
Yes, they're going to be combining Mayport Elementary and Anchor Academy. They've had low enrollment for a long time. But there are others that have been on the chopping block for years that, may still in the next few years end up being combined because our numbers of families who are living here and attending our public schools are getting lower all the time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I live in Riverside, so I hear about all the schools like near downtown that are thinking about that, but I don't necessarily always hear about the ones at the beach. So, okay.
Have a lot of enrollment that keeps happening. People send their kids out here because of all the school choice options. So we have some people coming from across town to come to the schools that
Hmm.
keeps the enrollment in a, y- keeping it open place.
Sure.
But the number of Beaches students who are attending Beaches public schools is going down all the time.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's always just all this data is always so interesting to me, the things you can garner from it.
Hmm. Hmm. Um, okay. I appreciate your thoughts, Laura. Thank you so much for jumping in there. Okay, so we're going to talk about now education. And the education dashboard is kind of broken into three categories or subcategories. So we're going to talk about preschool and early education. We're going to talk about K through 12 education, and then we're going to talk about regional educational attainment. So we're going to start young, move to elementary, and then talk about post-secondary graduation rates and things like that. Um, So we're going to talk a little bit about preschool. And when we think about preschool here, we're going to think about VPK, right? So we're going to think about children age through 4 that are enrolled in school. So we're going to start here with a population of children at the beach that are age 3 to 4. So we have about 2,195 kids that fall into that age range. And based on that, we have about 66% of those kids that are enrolled in nursery or preschool aged schools. That equates to about 1,036 of that 2,000 number that you saw up here. Again, these are all from census, so the numbers should tick and tie back to each other. Now, I wanted to show a map, and yesterday we got great feedback again about the color, right? So I tried to make the colors a little bit darker on this map so that it was easier to see the different breakdowns that you were showing here. So this is where children are enrolled in preschool at the beach. This is a map of it, and we have anywhere from a dark black, which is 95 to 100%, all the way down to a light gray, which is 0 to 32%. And there are some places here that do not have data. So as we kind of zoom in, we can just see that they didn't have enough data to create a percentage response rate here, but there is a lot of other places that do have data. So we can see up here, we have close to or a exact 100% of children that are likely enrolled in preschool or that are enrolled. We have another 100% out here, 100% here, and then it kind of varies and changes as we move to different places out at the beach. We can see this is 87%. So if we zoom in a little farther, we'll see this is the area south of JTB, right on the beach, has about 87%. This one, this census tract here, which is, let's see, south of Corena Road, has about 50% enrollment. Just interesting to look at how that varies by geography. And then I want to also talk a little bit about child care centers. So when we were talking with BAC uh, last year about kind of what their focus area should be, um, one of the things that was brought up was like entering into affordable childcare and exploring if that is something that the Beaches Action Collaborative should take on as a priority. And as we dove into the data, we were able to find data on the number of childcare centers that are in the Beaches Action Collaborative footprint. So this shows over time how the number of childcare facilities have changed. Now, the definition of childcare facilities here is a little bit different than the one that we just reviewed, right? So that was preschool for ages 3 to 4. Childcare facilities can encompass any age range of children. And so we can see here that in 2017, we had about 16. And it's kind of as COVID happened, right? There was a slight reduction in the number of child care facilities, and then more recently, it's kind of gone on an upward trend, but not significantly upward and really not significantly downward. You know, the variation here is between 16, 13, and then 15. So I would say overall, my assumption is that the number of child care facilities at the beach is holding pretty steady. But I would be interested to understand what the demand is like for those.
Allison, I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm guessing, I really don't know, so I should, but I'm guessing that the child care facilities may have included, maybe still do include home child care. You know, some people will have child care. Are these licensed like Head Start programs? What's included? Not just Head Start, but programs that may have Head Start, but then have extended care for other children. Do you have any idea how that, what that number represents?
Yes. So these are businesses coded as child care facilities, right? This is from the CBP, which are essentially it measures the amount of businesses that are registered as a certain type of business within a geographic region. So these would not necessarily include, it would include anything that is kind of quote unquote on the books as a child care facility, but things that are kind of informal relational child care facilities would not be included in this.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good question. And then, you know, this is just another view of the same data and just understanding kind of where those child care facilities are, right? It would be interesting, and I'm going to make a note of this as I'm thinking about it, to overlay the where children live with this map here. So we can see there are child care centers. There's 3 up here, maybe some 0 over here, maybe 2 here. And I think what I'm gonna do after this is add in an overlay of the number of children under 18.
Allison, it's interesting that in the top part of the map where there are 0 child care centers, there was also 100% VPK participation. So I don't know, maybe
something to think about.
Yeah, because that was the 3 to 4-year-old in your previous map. There was 100% of kids were in those programs.
Good call out. BK participation in Mayport matching child care map. See, this is why I love other people looking at this because they have really good questions. And I'm like, let's find the data to answer those questions. All right. We are at 12:30, so we have still plenty of time. Now, I'm going to move on to K through 12 education. And this is where, and Laura, you'll love this, where over the past month, we've identified some data that we can look at to bring the views that you see here to a more local level. So the data that Laura and I kind of found last year shows some specificity to Jacksonville Beach, but anything you see here with an asterisk, we had to kind of aggregate for the county level. So as we continue to evolve and change this website, we're going to add in more beach specific data this year that we've been able to find through the Florida Department of Education. But I just want to caveat with the data that you're going to see here, a lot of it is at the Duval County level and St. Johns County level. Okay, so in here we're going to talk about school enrollment, and in school enrollment we're going to talk about public versus private school. So within the Beaches Action Collaborative footprint, we've got about 18,000 kids enrolled in public school. Now, this doesn't mean that they necessarily attend school at the beach, right? This is their home is located at the beach, and therefore, when we collected or the data was collected, they shared that they were enrolled in public school. About 4,900 are enrolled in private school. And so we can see again here how that public or private school enrollment has changed over time. So we can see here, yeah, our yellow bar is public school, our blue bar is private school. And we can see how in 1990 we had about 16,000 up to 21, down to 18, and we're still kind of holding strong with that 18,000 number in 2021 with a little bit of dip that's projected by 2029. And then here we have private schools. Let's get rid of that public school. And you can just see a little bit about how private school enrollment has increased and with a little bit of a dip here. So we were down about 2,700 up to about 6,000, down to about 5 right now. And then, but also projected to increase pretty significantly over the next couple of years. I want to talk a little bit about, Jose, you have a question?
Yeah, the data for public schools, that includes charter schools and our secular public schools, correct?
Correct. Yes. So public schools would be your neighborhood school, magnet programs, as well as charter. Yes.
All right, thank you.
You're so welcome. Good question. All right, math and reading performance. So the data that we were able to find on math and reading performance is a little bit dated and is from, again, the Federal Department of Education. And so, as we've shared this statistic with you all, which is about 50% of Duval County is proficient in math, and about 47% of Duval County is proficient in reading. Now, as I said, we're going to update this with more current data over the coming weeks, as well as updated metrics for this specific geography. So, you know, it's interesting to have this on here. We're going to continue have it on here, but it's going to get a little bit better over time. And again, graduation rates, this is at the county level. This is from 2022 data. And we're seeing that St. Johns County is outpacing Duval County when it comes to graduation rates. St. Johns County at the time had about a 92% graduation rate comparing to Duval County, which is 87%. The data that I was able to access earlier this week and into last had graduation rates by race, which I'm interested to add in here. and cohort by race, right? So of the 100 white students, what percentage by school graduated, what percent of Black students graduated, and Asian. So again, I'm excited to be able to add some of that information in here as we evolve the dashboard. This statistic here is about mental health and substance abuse. So the Florida Youth Substance Abuse Survey is a voluntary survey that Florida used to administer to students that are enrolled in public schools to better understand things about information about how they and if they abuse substances, as well as kind of some questions around their mental health. I believe personally it was is an interesting survey and a good indicator of what the experience was like within our communities and in our state when it comes to this type of data. But I do believe that the Florida legislature is not allowing this survey to continue anymore. So this data that we have available will probably be the last year. Laura, do you know anything else about that? Was it discontinued?
It has been currently, we're bummed about that because that was some really good information. I can recall that, and I'm surprised you had 2022. I didn't even realize, I thought they had stopped that even before 2022. But it might have been this one or one of the ones earlier. I was surprised. I was always surprised by some of the beaches numbers. That one at the one at the end there that says high school students who first had more than a sip or two of beer, wine, or hard liquor at age 13 or younger. At the time when we were using these numbers to determine some of our substance abuse counseling and stuff at the Beaches Resource Center, that the percentage of kids who answered yes to that question was higher at the beach than anywhere else in the county. And I found
Wow.
that to be interesting. So, yeah, it was at a time when we were trying to ramp up our substance abuse services at the center because there was a lot of those numbers at the beach that were higher than people would have suspected.
Leslie, you're on mute, I think.
Sorry. These numbers are just shocking to me. That 29.5% in that first one who agree with the statement, all in all, I'm inclined to think that I'm a failure overall. That's just, it's inexcusable for us, for our society to have numbers like that in all of these categories. They're really shocking and disturbing.
Yeah, those mental health and answers about mental health, the kids who thought they were a failure, the kids who overall would not say they were happy, the kids who said, I have thought about suicide at least once in the last 6 months. There were some questions like that. They were all shocking and disturbing, and just I don't even know what else to say about it. It's something we should all be greatly concerned about.
Yeah, I agree.
And the bottom graph here also talks about students who have attacked someone with the idea of seriously hurting them, which is 7.5%, or students who have attacked someone with the idea of hurting themselves in the past 12 months overall. So these are interesting data points as we kind of view that. Okay, so it's unfortunate that won't be able to continue this data, and it's just another instance of our data landscape changing in our communities and at the federal government level, right?
And
So,
there are some conversations about people who are looking into like trying to get grant dollars to continue something like this or to restart this kind of screening. And there's a lot of conversation about that at DCPS and in different nonprofit areas, because we know that it is a shame that we can't continue to get that when we see how alarming some of the numbers are.
Well,
right.
the concern is too that even if you get the funding, the state may not allow it to take place. I mean,
That is true. That
yeah,
is
I mean,
true.
and I have to say, and I'll just say it quickly and be done with it. But as we move into so many, based on what's happening in state education right now, the data that we're going to get out of them, who knows whether it's accurate or not. I mean, it could be a bunch of baloney. So, it's really unfortunate.
Yeah, I think that kind of point comes up a lot, right? When we're thinking about data and some of the changes that have happened to the data landscape over the past year.
Mhm.
Um, data sources. There's an event that I'm going to, I think it's this Friday, where it's commemorating all of the data sources that no longer exist within the data landscape and kind of mourning the day when all data sources at the federal government level went black, right? About a year ago on the 31st. We're celebrating on the 30th because it's a work day. But when all of those sources went black and people kind of started panicking. And no matter what your political affiliation is, being able to understand the needs of your community with data is essentially important for us as nonprofit organizations to be able to understand what the need is, to be able to justify why our programs and products exist. But then also, I would hope that we would also leverage the data to understand what the impact that we're making. And in order for us to build trust in a system that is more increasingly distrustful of nonprofit organizations. The only way that we're going to be able to do that is with data. So it's extremely important for me personally and for I think our systems to, uh, be able to measure our successes. Anyways, I could talk about that for all day and I don't want to bore you all. Okay, last data category we're going to talk about today is educational attainment at the beach. We're going to talk about two data points here, and we're going to talk about the level of education completed by residents of the beach. And here you're going to see that overall, educational attainment at the beach is much higher than Duval County overall. And we explored a little bit of this yesterday when it comes to economic vitality. But for me, what this means and how it resonates with economic vitality is that people who are more highly educated tend to earn more money, right? And that the median income of the beach is much higher than Duval County overall, but also the hard numbers and percentages of individuals who've attained bachelor's and even graduate degrees is much higher at the beach. So the hard numbers, may be smaller at the beach, but the percentage of the population is much larger. So you see here, we've got about 33% of beach's population that have bachelor's degrees, 20% have graduate degrees, and 18% have a high school degree or diploma, as compared to Duval County, which is about 22%, 10 and 30%, almost 27% that have high school degrees. And then I just wanted to show a little bit about how that education has changed over time, right? So at the beach, you can see here the hard numbers. So we see graduate degrees have number of beach residents have increased by the hard numbers. Bachelor's degrees have increased, and high school diplomas have kind of decreased by hard numbers. And then over here, this is a ratio as a percent of the beach's population. So um, we can see here even percentage of bachelor's degrees increase, high school diplomas decrease, and graduate degrees decrease. So overall, I would say residents are highly educated at the beach. And that's all the data I have for you all today. Any questions or thoughts as we've reviewed this with you all?
I just wanted to say again that how much, and I know you recognize this, how important what you do is, because more and more so at the local level, the way we're getting it is what we need to be counting on, since we can't count on it from the state, and we can't count on it from the federal government right now, to possibly be getting accurate data. Being able to rely on this kind of data from our local areas is super, super important what you're doing.
Thank you, Laura. I appreciate that.
I have a question, and maybe I missed it, but I didn't see anything in here about achievement, student achievement at the beaches as compared to town. It seems to me that that would be something that might be of value. Did I miss it? Did you go over that, or is it there and we didn't talk about it?
we last year when we built this dashboard, we attempted to include in achievement, but at
Uh-huh.
that time the data changed and only included achievement data at a very high level versus kind of more specific geographies, right? And
Okay.
so
So it
I
was
we
like overall, Duval County overall, rather than just, okay, got it.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
I
Okay.
think
And
it's really hard to know. It's kind of hard to parse that out because the students at the beach are attending so many different places that aren't
True.
necessarily at the beach. And so it's
Yeah.
hard to, whether they're at magnet schools or other charter schools or private, it's hard to pull together all that data about what their achievement is, unfortunately.
mhm.
Would it be helpful, and I really don't know, would it be helpful to include achievement at the public schools at the beach in this, or that would not give you the type of information that would be useful?
I think it would be useful to understand achievement at the beach. I think it's just finding the right data set to be able to tell that story,
Okay.
right? And that's
And
that's the really hard challenge that we face is there are so many questions that people have, right? But
Hmm.
there's not always a data source that we're able to leverage to tell that story at a granular level, right? There's lots of studies. This came up a lot in some of the conversations we had about community and civic vibrancy. People wanted to understand what the level, there's a lot of studies at the national level that talk about loneliness, the loneliness
Hmm.
epidemic that exists within communities, and how many people feel disengaged or sad or depressed because of it. And we could find a lot of data at the national level, but when we tried to drill down to specific geographies, understanding what our community was feeling like in that space was really, really difficult, right? We
Okay.
could find rates of depression. We could find like sense of loneliness and loss, but we couldn't necessarily find a very specific data point that would resonate with that ask. And so that's the challenge that we face in this space is trying to pair what data is available with the questions of our community, but it's not something that we're afraid of or we're not going to stop trying us to acquire, right?
and I will say again at the beach when it comes to education, it's hard again because even if you look at the public schools at the beach, the children who are attending those schools are not necessarily children who live at the beach. So you're not getting an accurate, Fletcher High School has a lot of kids coming from across the ditch. Neptune Beach Elementary, not all kids who live in Neptune Beach. It's
Well, look
it's
at
really
Jack's Beach
Jack's
Elementary
Beach,
too, as a
right?
magnet, and it's a great school. Yeah. Okay.
And not
Yeah.
very many
Okay.
people there anymore are the people from the beach
Hmm.
because there's a big demographic coming from across a different part of town.
Yeah.
And our whole loss of our neighborhood schools and the parent choice
Hmm.
school choice thing has really done a number on the ability to even pull data about what's happening and where kids are, and it uh, don't get me started.
Yeah. It makes sense. It makes sense. Thank you. That was I
No,
appreciate that
I'm glad you're
information.
here, Laura. Thank you. Laura and I had all these conversations last year at this time, just one
Okay.
on one. We were like, what are we going to do? So it's good to share this with other folks.
Yeah. Thank
Oh,
you.
you're so welcome. Okay, this is our download. So earlier I downloaded an image from our website. This is what it'll look like. It tells you kind of the data point and size. It has a graph. It has the geographic footprint and the source typically. So just an example of what you can do with data once it's downloaded. Um, that's really all I have for you all today. I appreciate you joining the conversation to learn more about our data project. If you have any additional feedback for me or about the data that you see or recommendations for things that should be included, please feel free to email me, call me, you know, send a carrier pigeon. I'm around.
Thank
Um,
you.
you're so welcome, everybody. I hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday and stay warm out there.
Thank you.
You
You
too.
as well.
Cool.